What is up, booze fam? Today's video is all for my fellow winos out there. I don't do nearly enough of these, and a big part of that is because I am the only person in my household that drinks wine. So if I open a bottle of wine, guess who's drinking an entire bottle of wine? Not a great time. Well, yes and no, great time. So the wine that I'm going to talk about today, I'm super excited to try. It's called the Prisoner Wine Company Unshackled Red. So for those of you that are pretty well versed in the wine industry will know that this is an Orin Swift offshoot, but we're going to get into some of the details of that later. So I'm a huge Orin Swift. I love all Orin Swift everything. So even though this isn't technically Orin Swift, really excited. It's in the same lineup as like the Prisoner. But while we are going to review this wine, what I'm really excited to talk about is this little guy right here. This is like the real reason I'm on today. And this guy is a wine stopper. I don't know if you can see it. You probably can't. It's called Repour. And it is unlike any other wine stopper on the market, supposedly. We're about to find out if this is a real thing. So basically what this is, it is not a one-time use, but a one bottle use wine stopper. Basically what makes this little guy different from every other wine stopper on the market is that this wine stopper doesn't just close off the top of your wine bottle, it actually eats the oxygen inside. So that is very different, because even those of you who are huge fans of like the vacuum bin or like the rabbit system that pumps the air out of the bottle, you're displacing the air, but the oxygen is still in there. Supposedly what this little guy does, so it's got a little foil filter on the bottom. So you've opened your bottle of wine and you've had your 1 glass, 2 glasses, whatever, and you're done. And you just take off that foil tab on the bottom and you stick it into your wine bottle, and this guy will eat all the oxygen in your bottle. Now, this was designed by a PhD chemist. Him and his wife really enjoy drinking wine, but they only drink a little bit and then the bottle sits. Now, for those of you that do drink wine and don't drink an entire bottle in a sitting, if you let it sit for even 3 days, that wine, you might as well either pour it out or cook with it. So this stopper claims to keep bottles of wine that have been opened good for days, weeks, and even in some cases, months. So basically it has the capacity to eat the oxygen from 1,500 milliliters worth of air. So what it is assuming is that you're going to do somewhere in the realm of 5 5-ounce pours. So a standard wine glass over the course of however long. And as long as you're doing that, this stopper will last you all the way through. So we're going to try the wine. I'm very excited to try it. I'm going to jot down some tasting notes, some general feelings of how I feel about this wine. I'm going to stop this wine with this stopper, and then I'm going to come back to this bottle in 3 days, which is the time at which I usually think, this wine is no longer good. We're going to come back in a week, 2 weeks, and we're just going to go ahead and take this whole thing out all the way to a month just to see how effective this really is. But first, wine. All right, so I've got my glass of wine here. It's actually probably, I'm just eyeballing here, probably just shy of 5 ounces. So I'm gonna have this one glass and then we're gonna stop it. But let's geek out about this wine a little bit. So those of you who are not familiar with Orin Swift, started by it's either Dave Finney or Dave Finey. I have never known exactly how to pronounce his name. All I know, he's a goddamn genius when it comes to blending grapes. He's just absolutely phenomenal. His wines are wonderful. Well, several years ago, he sold the Orin Swift brand to the Gallo family, and the Prisoner was sold separately to, oh my gosh, the name of the group is it's Hoynes Vinters. Anyway, the point is, he doesn't own it anymore. It's been sold to somebody else, and so now this is an extension of that line. Now, these are phenomenally cheaper than the Prisoner. These ones, I mean, you're probably looking somewhere between $25 and $30, depending on where you are. So pretty inexpensive for a wine of what we hope is going to be a pretty high caliber. This particular one is a red blend. It is sourced from various vineyards along the central coast and the north coast of California, including Paso Robles, which is one of my favorite regions, so I'm super excited for this. Primarily Zinfandel, but there's also like some Malbec, there's some Petite Syrah, there's some Grenache, there's a couple of other little things. So I'm guessing this is gonna be like lots of like deep dark fruit, probably some spice. Based on the color, like I think that's really on point. I mean, it's like a nice like deep sort of like inky purple with like nice like garnet red edges. So your girl's real excited here. Interesting. So in the aroma, it smells really, really, really light. And actually the fruit that I'm picking up immediately are like berries, like ripe raspberries, but not like super ripe, like kind of like your light red raspberry. So like not even like the dark kind, which is what I would expect from this blend. So I let it open up a little bit more, and now I am definitely starting to smell a little bit more of like the spice that I would expect in a wine made from these particular grapes. There's definitely like a little bit of like an earthy undertone. So let's just get right into it. I am amazed at how light-bodied this is. It looks like it's going to be pretty heavy based off of the blend. I mean, I guess it is primarily Zinfandel, and Zinfandels don't generally tend to be super heavy for me. But the fact that there's like Malbec in there, which is like, I think the very like, as far as like from a percentage of composition, I'm pretty sure Malbec is like the second primary grape. I really thought it was going to be heavier. That's not a bad thing, not by any means. It is wonderfully complex. It is lightly spicy and not the spice I was expecting. In the aroma, I was getting a lot of like pepper notes, but the spice that I'm getting like in the flavor is really more of like your baking spice. So cinnamon, like nutmeg, maybe like just like a hint of clove, not like a lot, maybe like some cardamom, something like that. And then the fruit is more what I expected. It's definitely more like dark cherry, candied cherry. It's like a candied dry cherry. It's like dark black plum. It's, you know, your deeper, darker berries. Like that's what I'm getting. And honestly, like those fruits paired with that earthy spiciness almost borders into like a hint of chocolate, but like just a very, very little bit. Final thoughts on the wine itself from this first initial pour. It definitely needs some time to open up. If you don't give it time to open up, you're really missing out. That's going to be interesting with this experiment moving forward, because one of the things that the Repour Stoppers claim is that if you do have a wine that requires being opened up and you have already done so, and then you use the Repour Stopper, you will find that coming back to it on subsequent visits, you will have to reopen it. So that'll be really interesting to see if that's something that we really need to do. But as far as the wine goes itself, it's really, really quite lovely. It's pretty complex, and it's like really light bodied, which is surprising because I feel like those things don't normally go hand in hand. A lot of the time I find those lighter bodied wines, they don't have a whole lot of complexities. So that's really interesting. It's really also interesting that it is as light bodied as it is, because this guy clocks in at 14.5% alcohol, which is, that's pretty big. That's pretty heavy. But lots of like, the aroma is wildly misleading. The things that I get in the aroma are completely different than what I actually got in the palette itself. But again, lots of like bright, ripe, dark berries, dark plum, that nice drying baking spice that I absolutely adore. Now the finish is pretty short because it is a pretty light bodied wine. And it sort of like, it does the fruit thing, right? And then it kind of does the spice thing, and then they kind of come together, and then it's just kind of gone. But that's, again, not a bad thing. I'm going to stopper this thing up, and I'm going to come back to this wine in 3 days and see if it's still worth anything. Okay, so it has been 3 days since I first opened up this Orin Swift Unshackled Red Blend and tried it for the first time. Loved it quite a bit, and then we stoppered it with the Repour Stopper that claims to keep wine good for days, weeks, and even months. So at 3 days with a red wine, I'm pretty much not going to drink that red wine. You know, there are some that can sit as long as like 5 days opened and be just fine. The higher your tannin content, the longer it'll last just simply corked. Zinfandels are of like a moderate amount of tannin, so this is probably one, because it's primarily Zinfandel. At 3 days, I'm probably not gonna drink that. Now, of course, I would not have let this bottle sit for 3 days. That is crazy. I have left the stopper in there until now because I did, in the first portion of this video, allow this wine to open up to really develop some of those more complex flavors that can be a little tight if you just drink it immediately after opening the bottle. Now, the Repour claims that because it is so effective, that if you've already opened up your wine and then you stop it with the Repour Stopper, well, now all of a sudden you have to reopen that wine. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna unstopper it, I'm gonna pour my glass, and I'm gonna taste it immediately with no aeration, just to see, is it tight? Is it real? Does it really need to be reopened? We're about to find out. All right, so I've got my roughly 5 ounces of wine, probably just a touch less. And then I just went ahead and I immediately put the stopper back in there. I didn't want it to sit and be consuming the air around me for terribly long. So the only amount of aeration that this wine has gotten at this point is just from the bottle into the glass. I mean, it smells perfectly fine. Okay, so actually, it is a little tight. I do think that this needs, you know, just like this probably does need to be like reopened. Of course, I'm gonna do it the cheater way. Okay, so after giving it a pretty good amount of like swirling and aeration, I'm gonna go ahead and say that at 3 days, this still tastes like it did at day 1. What's different about the way that I'm getting it now as opposed to the way that I would expect to get it after a bottle of wine's been open for 3 days, a lot of the time that fruit's not gonna taste fresh. It doesn't taste like that brand new, like perfectly picked summer plum and berries. It's gonna taste like one that's been just mishandled a little bit. Definitely not getting that at all. It'll be interesting to see where we're at 1 week. So I'm just gonna go ahead and finish this wonderful glass of wine, and I'm gonna be right back here in 1 week. Today we are at the 1 week mark since we opened up this very delicious Orin Swift Unshackled Red Blend. I'm probably not supposed to associate it with Orin Swift. It's the Prisoner Wine Company, so, you know, just pretend I didn't say that. So as you can see, I actually have 2 bottles of this delicious wine, and one of them is the one that we opened a week ago, and this one is one that I just purchased today. So because we are now at the point that, you know, at 3 days, it's plausible that that wine is still okay. A week, you're really, really pushing it. So to make sure that I have like the most accurate comparison between the bottle that's been open for a week, I just went ahead and got another bottle. So we're just gonna taste them side by side. You can see I have not uncorked this one. I'm gonna open them at the same time to see if the wine really does need to be reopened further after being corked for a week. And I have broken out my little tiny tasting glasses for wine so that it's completely fair across the board. You'll note this one has a cute little flamingo sticker on it. So just to be sure that I'm not having any sort of like bias against the wine that has been open for a week, I'm actually going to step away. I'm gonna have my husband come out here and pour the wines for me, and then I'm going to taste them blind, not knowing which one was just opened and which one was opened a week ago. So I'm gonna go away, he's gonna come pour the wine, and then I'm gonna come back. All right, so the wines have been poured. I have a little piece of paper that has which one is in which glass, and now we're just gonna compare them. These have had absolutely no opportunity whatsoever to open up. They just went directly from the bottle into the glass, and both bottles were restoppered. So we'll just, let's just check it out. Off aroma alone, if I had to guess, I would say that the one that's been open longer is this one, but obviously I'm not sure. There's just a slight difference in intensity, but overall it smells mostly the same. I'm gonna give these both a little swirl and just see how that changes things. But you know what? First, I am gonna taste it like completely unopened up just to see what we get here. Okay, so almost no difference at all, which is impressive at a week, because even though this one to me tastes like it's like more opened up, it does not by any means taste old. It definitely doesn't have that like bruised fruit. You know, it's a week, which is significant. So if at this juncture, I'm gonna say that this one in the flamingo glass is the one that's been open. But I'm gonna swirl them both a little bit, open them up a little bit more, you know, and then try them again. Okay, so after having done a little aeration there, these now smell exactly the same. Let's see if they taste the same. Yeah, I'm going to tentatively say that this stopper legitimately does what it says it does, because these wines right now, after aeration, taste like exactly the same. So at a week, that's pretty impressive. So obviously we've got 2 more rounds of this, so week 2 and then at 1 month. Now, if this wine at 1 month tastes as good as it does right now, compared to a bottle that was open today, just like literally 10 minutes ago, that is going to absolutely blow my mind. But right now, I'm gonna say this is tentatively, this is a win. I was right. So that one, the blue stopper was the one in the flamingo glass, which is what I thought. So clearly there is just a little bit of a difference between a bottle that is opened right now and the bottle that has been stopped. You know, they claim like sometimes with a wine that has already been opened up, you have to reopen it. I guess in this particular scenario, that wasn't 100% true, but it was a little bit, because the wine did definitely taste completely identical to the wine I opened today after I had aerated it. It was really mostly in the aroma and a little bit in the flavor that I was like, yeah, this one tastes just a teensy bit opened up compared to the one that had just been uncorked today, right before I started filming. So super, super interesting there. I cannot wait to see what week 2 brings. All right, fam. So it's been 2 weeks now. I've got my brand new unopened bottle of the Prisoner Wine Company Unshackled Red Blend next to my bottle that has been open for 2 weeks and stopped with the Repour Stopper. Even though I'm pretty sure at this point that I'm going to be able to tell the difference, because I was able to pinpoint which one was the opened one last week, I still am going to do it blind. I'm going to have my helper come out and pour the wine so I don't know which one is which. This week I have a happy face sticker, and we'll see how we're at 2 weeks. At 2 weeks, I would expect for this to taste like trash. All right, so my helper has come out and like poured my 2 glasses of wine, and we're gonna see if we can tell the difference between the 2. Ooh, they're really, really close. Off of first like sniffs, I'm guessing that this one is the Repour Stopper and this one is the new one, because again, this one smells just a touch opened up, but they're very, very, very similar. My helper poured these just a little too heavy, so I'm gonna go ahead and take a drink out of each of them so that I can get some aeration going. All right, so these have been pretty well aerated at this point, so we're just gonna give them a sniff. After having aerated them and smelling them now, I'm like 100% positive that this glass is in fact the Repour stopped bottle, because it definitely, now that they've both been opened up for sure, they smell absolutely identical. So because of the fact that this one did smell opened up at the very beginning, that tells me this is probably the Repour Stopper one. But let's just give it a taste and see if that changes anything. You guys, I am like in legit shock. There's like no difference here at 2 weeks. That is absolutely mind-boggling to me. At 2 weeks, first of all, a bottle of wine would never sit on my countertop for 2 weeks. That's silly. But if it did, for some reason, that would just go down the drain. I wouldn't even cook with that. I honestly, I can't tell the difference. But my helper put my cheat sheet in my phone case so that we could see which one was which. Oh, I was wrong, you guys. Oh my gosh, you can't even see it. But yeah, so I told them to write down which one was in the Happy Face glass, and I was certain that this was the Repour bottle. So, I mean, like, the fact that I was wrong completely, like, that tells me this thing is working, which is absolutely wild, and I am, like, mind blown. I will be right back here in 2 weeks from now, which will be a whole 4 weeks of this bottle being open, unless it's just absolutely freezing because it's already getting kind of cold, and so you may see me at the dining room table. All right, guys, so it has now been a month since I opened up this bottle, and I gotta say, after the 2-week result, I'm like super impressed with the stopper, to the point that I'm actually like kind of excited for this final installment. I did buy myself some fancy new like Rydell glasses because, I mean, they're like the industry leader when it comes to glasses, and quite honestly, I was just tired of trying to aerate in those super, super tiny tasting glasses. So my assistant's gonna come out and fill my wine glasses for me, write down on a piece of paper. Well, you guys know the drill. So he's gonna come out, he's gonna fill these up for me, and then we're just gonna see how well this wine has lasted with the Repour Stopper after an entire month of being open. All right, so as protocol, same drill, 2 glasses of wine. I don't know which one's which. The answer is right here. Let's just see. They're really, 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 really close in the aroma without having been opened up. Little side note, apologize for how dark it is because I'm in the middle of midterms right now and school is absolutely kicking my ass. So this is something I would normally do at like 4 o'clock. It's like 6:30 and my deck lights are just not very bright. I can't tell the difference. I really thought I could last week, and maybe it's because I was wrong last week that now it's throwing me off, because I would say if I thought there was one that was the newer one, it'd be this one, but I'm really not sure. I don't know. Okay, I've tasted them, and at this point, you know, my palate is more or less wrecked. But if I had to guess which one was the Repour one on just a very, 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 very slight difference, I would say that this one right here with the rainbow sticker is the Repour bottle, and that this one is the new bottle, just because this one tastes just slightly more bright. And again, I feel like I'm sort of reaching here, so let's just find out. Y'all, I was wrong. This is the new one. This is the Repour one. They are so incredibly similar. There's like literally, this thing's been open for a month. That is absolutely wild. So final thoughts on the Repour Stopper. This thing works 100%. There is absolutely no question in my mind. I could not tell these wines apart. I thought I could last week. I was wrong. I tried really hard this week and I absolutely could not do it. This thing is amazing. It's like $2 for a single, and I think the 10 packs are like $15. I'm actually waiting on my shipment because after the last segment of this science experiment, I did order in some of their product because I was at 2 weeks, I was convinced. At 1 month, I am absolutely amazed. I never in 1,000 years would have thought that a stopper could really make a wine drinkable a whole month after being open. That's absolutely insane. So if you are someone like me who puts off opening those like really good bottles because you don't have anyone to share them with, and you know that you're either gonna drink a whole bottle of wine and have big regret, or it's gonna sit on your countertop and it's gonna end up going not so great, this is definitely 100% worth it. Again, each stopper is only good for one standard 750 milliliter bottle, and it's assuming that you're taking glasses at about the standard 5-ounce pours. So you're definitely going to want to stick within those guidelines. But this stopper works 100%, and I highly, like, I literally can't endorse it enough. I literally can't say enough good things about it. This thing's amazing. You should go buy it if you can find it. I think it'd make a great stocking stuffer, especially if you're giving bottles of wine to people who you don't know what their wine drinking tolerance is. You should definitely just go buy one. It's $2. Throw it in there. Christmas is right around the corner. I mean, this thing is absolutely amazing. Thanks for watching.